Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our retrospective, where we kind of take a moment, look at Tales of Arise, see what we think about the game so far, and like where we think the game is going. Although we're pretty close to the end, so there's not a lot of time left for it to surprise us. But you know what? I could have said that last time, and I would have been wrong. So we'll have to find out if that ultimately ends up being true. So first off, I should say there is some different background music going on. I went to Overclocked Remix and looked for, they have a Tales album called Summoning of Spirits. This is not specifically from Tales of Arise. They didn't have anything for Tales of Arise. I guess it's too new. But regardless, I think it might be better than just, random music. Because it's different. It's random remixed music. And that by definition makes it better. So, first of all, this series of videos started just after the defeat of Vholron. I do have to say, we spent 4 or 5 episodes, I think 4, just in the capital, and trying to rule over the area and help the people who had just been so dependent on Vholron they didn't know how to live. So I thought that was really, really, really important and very, very, very critical. The reason I like that so much is that it showed that Alphen and everyone were going to be completely comfortable if Renan had just left well enough alone, and they could just rule over Dana and have a free populace, let people learn to live together. With the plot eventually coming up to Linnaeus, it was super, super, super important to make sure to frame it as a Reyna continued to be aggressive, and Dana is having to have an aggressive defense. The entire game, up until the fall of Vholron, had been just, you've enslaved our people, and we are fighting a campaign of liberation. But you can't really fight a campaign of liberation by invading the enemy's home turf. So I thought that was a very, very good way of approaching it. It would have been pretty easy to kind of flub that up and just have two sides of the same problem. So I was glad to see that's not what we ended up seeing. But then we get to the actual, and the other thing that section did that I thought was helpful, it kind of set us up for Linnaeus, because we saw the populace that just wasn't able to think for themselves, that was so totally over-dependent on Vholron, and the soldiers as well. And then we get to Linnaeus, and we see the same thing in the populace, where they just sit around and they wait for orders to come from the Sovereign, who may or may not be. I'm still confused about it's supposedly still being Vholron. I'm like, the dude was dead. I get that his no one else has gotten stabbed and then somehow been okay. A lot of people have gotten killed, and I'm just like, why is I don't want Vholron to be back. That really seems lame to me. It's like bringing Palpatine back. It was just like, no. He had a cool moment, and now he's gone. But with that being said, Linnaeus kind of showed that again, they don't really know how to take care of themselves. And it really seems to be a statement of only the strong survive actually creates a very, very dependent culture where you can just take out a couple of linchpins, and everyone else with any capacity to lead has been so thoroughly crushed under the heel of those that do lead that they aren't able to help you weather a storm. So that's an interesting idea. Obviously, you wouldn't have to work very hard to convince us that, liberty and democracy and everyone being happy is a better system. That's just kind of a transparent truth. But to go deeper and show that the inherent problem with the Renan society is that people cannot survive a significant change to the status quo. There isn't anyone who's really able to step up, because they've systematically removed the capability to step up from the populace. Then that brings us to Shionne. Shionne makes me very, very excited, but also very, very frustrated. Because Shionne reminds me a lot of Luke from Tales of Abyss. I just realized both are Tales of A games with 5 letters in the A word. A coincidence? I think not. But the thing about Shionne And the thing about Luke is that both of them are characters I fundamentally did not appreciate. I fundamentally did not want to involve myself with, did not want to learn about. I was frustrated that I won't say I was frustrated having to play the game, but if I'd been playing it by myself, I just really, really disliked Luke, and I really, really disliked Shionne. And the reason for my reaction to that, the reason I sort of felt that way, was that, they really kind of withheld everything that made Shionne interesting until the very bitter end of the game. Luke, at least, they only held it until the end of Act 1. Like, Luke got to be a cool character for 75% of the game. Shionne, I feel like we're finally getting to the point where she's interesting and a character, like, worth being sympathetic towards. At the very bloody end of the game, like, we might be going into the final palace, I don't know. That is way too late for us to be finding out what makes her tick. Because here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with kind of withholding what makes her, that makes her the most interesting. But they fucking withheld everything that made her the little bit interesting. She was just basically like, standoffish, like, girl that heals. Had no real personality other than she likes food. There just wasn't a lot going on for Shionne. And they left that as being the status quo for a really, really long time. And that's super frustrating. Alphen as well, although at this point I actually think Alphen is still really boring and uninteresting. Shionne I have a lot more sympathy for. The whole idea that the thorns are something she had since she was born, and by somehow overtaking the crown contest and assembling the Rias Alma was going to end the thorns, a lot of her actions make so much more sense now. The big problem that we have in terms of her is that, number one, I feel like, and I don't know what they could have done to make this better, but her thorns should have been made a bigger deal. Like, I didn't think she had her thorns for her entire life. I definitely didn't think her thorns were something that required that much power to take away. So it was just like, it really felt to me early on that her thorns were like a weird quirk that they were using instead of actually having a characteristic. It's like the lazy person's character design. Oh, well, I don't really want to figure out your backstory or give you anything to, like, make you interested or sympathetic. So I'll just go ahead and have this weird thing that you do. Like maybe that you always talk with this catchphrase. Maybe that, oh, hey, there's this, like, red flick of, like, strand of hair. And that's kind of a thing that makes you distinctive. And honestly, I kind of felt like that was it for Shionne. It was almost like they just gave her that in order to be like, oh, hey, Shionne hurts everyone that touches her. Alphen can't feel pain. That pushes them together. Great character. It's just like, it ended up just being really lazy to me. And I'll be the first to admit, and this is my own fault, I honestly can't blame anyone else for it. But, they ended, like, I took that as lazy writing and didn't really consider the thorns as a bigger part of her character other than a way to make her and Alphen start down the road together. I also do think it's a little bit weird that Shionne, this is going way back, but she went to Balzac's keep and apparently had no actual plan for overthrowing him. She just happened to bump into someone that could, like, wield the blazing sword because she couldn't. And that just seems like a really weird, eventuality, I guess. I don't really buy it, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Right now, Shionne's become a much, much more interesting character. I'm very sympathetic. I'm very interested to know, like, where her thorns came from, what the full story behind them. But I definitely don't feel like we've gotten enough of it. We now understand she was trying to unmake them because they wouldn't let her die until a specific point, and she was trying to take command of her own life back, which is cool. But at the end of the day, it just, it doesn't feel... I still feel like that is... There needs to be an explanation for why she has thorns and nobody else in the history of the world has ever had them. But Alphen, like I said, Alphen is not quite at the level where I buy him as a character. He's had his moments, and I do genuinely enjoy him in the game. But he still just feels like, yeah, I used to be a sovereign 300 years ago, and I want to help people. And that's kind of his entire character. And you don't, like, his backstory is very hit and miss. Like, he still doesn't remember massive swaths of it. And we don't know why he was asleep for a long time. And obviously these are not things, I'm not like, they haven't explained this yet, but I am saying, like, it's odd to be this late in the game and have such fundamental questions about the main character of the game. That's really, really, really odd. I don't like it. But with that said, like, I do like Alphen. I don't think anyone needs to be told Rinwell and Law are my favorite two characters. But they haven't really had a lot of character development these last episodes, so I'm not really talking about them. But I will say, like, Rinwell's little moment to Shionne, where she kind of talked about overcoming her past and trying to realize that she was more than just the sum of her choices, was probably one of her shining moments in the game. And then Law is just, I adore Law and everything he does. Vholron, I do have to say, like, Vholron got almost all these in this last episode. It's been really, really good. Vholron and Cassara have just kind of been along lately. I think they're an interesting character, and Vholron has a lot to explore, and we're really getting into it, and his regrets, and his, like, ability to over-fixate on the mistakes he's made and not see the lives he's saved, and the great decisions he's been responsible for. So at the end of the day, like, I think Vholron is starting to be built up as a character as good in my mind as Rinwell and Law. I think Law is trying to find acceptance for himself and no longer having to depend on his mental idea of who his father is. I honestly, I do feel like Rinwell, Law, and Vholron, all to a certain extent, are trying to overcome the over-fixation of a single moment in their life. Rinwell has, using magic and attracting Almadria, who ended up killing her parents. Of course, Law has abandoning his dad and never really getting to grow up with him, only to have his dad die as soon as they're reunited. And then Vholron is just fixating on being forced into killing his best friend. So it feels like their entire lives are being defined by a single decision. You can make the same argument for Alphen and, his whole, I slaughtered so many people when I gained sovereign powers. I'm trying to make up for that. But I feel like Cassara and Shionne don't have moments like that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I do hope to have a better understanding. Like, Shionne's just like, yeah, I want my life back. And Cassara, I'll be honest, I don't know why the fuck she's here. I don't know what her deal is. Like, she's trying to live up to the memory of her brother, but that's about it. And she likes Vholron, and other than that, she's just kind of along for the ride. Where do I think the game is going? Well, obviously, into Lenegis. We're going to go through what might be the final palace. We need to fight the Red Woman. I do definitely have a feeling that the winners of the crown contest are being consumed in order to give the real sovereign, who may or may not be Vholron, power. I'm not sure if the Vholron we fought down on Dana is the true Vholron. That might be like a Vholron clone or copy, and the real one has even more power. If we should the same fight again, that'd be pretty lame. And then yeah, I really feel like that's going to, I feel like we're going to have a comeuppance about what the crown contest really is, why they're really gathering power in the way that they are, and what happens to the winners, because the winners keep never being seen in the flesh again. So that's definitely going somewhere. And also, if this isn't the final palace, I feel like we also need to get to Renna, because they've definitely talked about and they've definitely built up the idea that even people on Lenegis have never been to Renna. So, and they're split between Dana and Lenegis. So, the Renna has been this magical box of the unknown for the entire game. So we have no idea what's there, and I feel like it would be a missed opportunity not to make that more clear. But yep, we'll deal with the Red Woman, or the Red Women, that were totally stolen from Nier Automata. We may go to Renna, and we will deal with the current Sovereign. I don't know which will be which. We'll either deal with the Sovereign here, and the Red Woman at Renna, or the Red Woman here, and the Sovereign at Renna, or both of them here, and we won't go to Renna. I'm not sure which of those is true, but I definitely predict one of those two will happen. But with that being said, that is my overview. thank you for coming with me. We're almost finished with it, and I'll see you guys next time.